Can I tell you one of the biggest lies I see entrepreneurs believe? I'm not ready yet. I need to learn more. I need another course. I need more money. I need more confidence. I need to understand sales first. I need to get better on video. I need to know how to lead people. I need to understand business. And once I get all that figured out, then I'll start. There's just one problem. You're trying to have king number 31 experience when you haven't even fought king number 1. Look, I heard something this weekend that I haven't even been able to shake. At the end of Joshua 12, the Bible gives this incredible summary of the kings Joshua and Israel defeated after entering the promised land. There's 31 of them, 31 kings. Think about that, 31. Joshua didn't start at king number 31, though. Israel didn't enter the promised land as a nation of seasoned warriors and conquerors. They had been traveling around, right, out in the wilderness for a while. They had to become conquerors by conquering. And maybe the reason you don't feel ready for what God has put in front of you is because you're not supposed to be ready yet. But maybe you're just supposed to start. Look, welcome back to the eForge podcast, where overwhelmed operators become empowered leaders, where we forge businesses, influence, and legacies at last. I'm your host, Cory Long. Today, we're talking specifically to the beginner. Now, this doesn't have to be a beginner that just started fresh into, maybe entrepreneurship. Maybe you're like me and you've started businesses, ran businesses, sold businesses, done all that, but maybe you're starting a new business, like buying an RV park when I've never owned one. Look, this is about the entrepreneur who's scared to make the call, or the business owner who's afraid to post the video, or the person who's afraid to launch, the leader who just hired maybe their first employee and suddenly realizes, I have no idea what I'm doing. Or maybe it's the person that just bought an RV park and is going, I've never ran an RV park. Or maybe you bought another business or started another business. You're like, I've never done this before. Good. Welcome to king number 1. Today, I want to show you something from Joshua's story that I believe every entrepreneur needs to understand. You don't become ready and then enter the battle. Sometimes the battle is how God makes you ready. So let's dive in. Look, we meet Joshua and we think about him in our minds as this great leader. It's Joshua, the conqueror, the man who led Israel into the promised land, the guy who tells Israel, as for me and my house, we will serve the Lord. But that's Joshua at the end of the story. If we go backwards, Joshua comes out of Egypt with Israel. He's there during this massive transition from slavery to freedom. In Exodus 17, Moses tells Joshua to choose men and go fight Amalek, right? He's learning. He's serving under Moses. He's watching, he's leading, he's growing. Then we get to Numbers 13. Moses sent 12 spies into the promised land. Joshua is one of them, right? 12 men go see the same exact land. They see the same exact cities. They see same exact giants. They come back. Literally takes 2 guys to carry back the grapes, the size of grape clusters that they brought back. Crazy what they saw in that land. 10 men come back and they say, we can't. Joshua and Caleb come back and they say, God can. Same opportunity, same obstacles, but a completely different belief system. Look, this is where we see entrepreneurs every single day. And especially in the world that I'm in. I teach entrepreneurs inside my AI Authority Engine training, my Entrepreneurial Forge. I've taught them in DSF and way back in other trainings that I've done through the years. Most people want certainty before obedience. They want to know, this is what's going to happen if I obey. Show me that it'll work. Show me the customer. Show me the money. Show me the results. Show me that I won't look stupid. Show me that nobody will reject me. Show me that my family is going to understand and support me. Show me the entire plan and then I'll move. Look, that's not faith. That's a guarantee. And if you're waiting until there are no giants, you're going to spend your life wandering around something God may have called you to walk into. Think about Joshua for a minute. He watched what fear cost an entire generation. 40 years. 40 years because people saw the obstacles and decided they weren't capable. And here's what really gets me. The giants didn't disappear during those 40 years, did they? Eventually, somebody still had to go. Somebody still had to cross the Jordan. Somebody still had to face Jericho. Somebody still had to fight. Waiting didn't eliminate the battle. It just delayed the battle. Man, how many entrepreneurs are doing that right now? You've been talking about that business for 3 years. You've been saying you're going to start those videos and making those videos consistently. You're going to write that book or launch that podcast. I'm going to make those sales calls this week. And you've been talking about buying that property. Maybe you've been talking about buying an RV park, right? Or maybe you've been talking about hiring somebody or getting this off your plate or starting that other business. And somehow you've convinced yourself that waiting is preparing. And sometimes it is. Sometimes waiting is just fear wearing responsible clothes, right? It's just fear controlling what we do. Now, here's where the story gets really interesting. So eventually Moses dies, right? He doesn't get to go into the promised land because he messed up before and God told him. God essentially looks at Joshua and says, "You're up." Now imagine that moment for a minute. I don't know about you guys, but that would scare me half to death. Moses is gone. Joshua just watched one of the greatest leaders in Israel's history. And now the responsibility belongs to him. He leads these millions of people. And what does God tell Joshua? It's not, "Joshua, you're finally qualified," or "Joshua, you have enough experience now," or "Joshua, here's your 47-step leadership plan," or "Joshua, here's the workshop you need to go attend." God repeatedly tells him, "Be strong and courageous," right? We know that, right? We know the whole be strong and courageous. So why tell somebody to be courageous? Because there's something to be afraid of. Joshua had never done this before. He had never led Israel to the promised land. He had never conquered 31 kings. He had never carried this exact level of responsibility, but he had spent years being prepared for a moment. But it would still require faith when it arrived. I don't know about you, but there's times when we've stepped out into faith and stepped out into whatever the circumstance is and thought, what in the world just happened? I can't imagine being Joshua, having these millions of people to lead, knowing that Moses is gone, the very people that you rely on. I lost my parents years ago, and we lost my wife's dad not too long ago. And I look back and I think about how many times have I picked up the phone to call one of them and say, "Hey, I need some advice," or "I need some help," or I just to talk to somebody. Just like he didn't have that. Moses wasn't there anymore. So sometimes we're waiting on that perfect moment, that perfect timing to know enough, whatever it may be. And that's just not how it works most of the time. Look, Israel crosses the Jordan, and now there's a city standing in front of them, Jericho, king number 1. And I love this because God's strategy doesn't even look like conventional warfare, right? March around the city and march again and keep marching, right? Trust God, trust me, right? Obey. And eventually the walls fall. Imagine being an Israelite. You're supposed to become this conquering nation, and your first lesson is depend on God. Now that's important because God wasn't simply teaching Israel how to fight. He was teaching them who their victory depended on, right? It wasn't about them. It was about him. And so many times we move and we change and we don't make it about him, and then we get off track. Now, this is important because if we're going to tell this story, we need to tell the whole story, right? Jericho falls, huge victory. I imagine they were going crazy. And then comes Ai, and Israel loses. The next battle, right? They have Jericho, and then they have Ai, and Israel loses. And that's entrepreneurship. Man, you can have incredible months that you make a massive amount of money and then get punched in the mouth the next month. You can have the biggest client you've ever closed and then lose another one. You can launch something that just crushes it, right? And then the next launch, something happens and nobody buys, nobody shows up, nobody does whatever it is that you're asking them to do. You can make a first video and it takes off and does millions of views, and then the next 10 get almost nothing. Nobody's even paying attention. Failure doesn't automatically mean the journey is over. Sometimes failure exposes something you need to address before moving forward. Israel had to deal with what was wrong. They had to learn, correct, right? And then go again. And that's how experience is built. But many of us don't want to go through that. We don't want to have to go through the journey. We just want to skip from king number 1 to king number 31. That's not how this thing works. Fast forward, battle after battle, city after city, king after king. Joshua eventually gives us a list. Jericho, Ai, Jerusalem, Hebron, Jarmuth, right? It just keeps going. And it just gets bigger and bigger, and the list gets longer until scripture concludes 31 kings in all. Here's what I want you to understand. The Joshua that was standing at king number 31 wasn't the same Joshua who stood at king number 1. He had seen more. He had learned more. He had failed. He had won. He had made decisions. He faced problems. He'd watched God provide. He had experienced God's faithfulness. King number 1 helped him prepare for king number 31. This might be the most interesting thing I tell you today. You're not necessarily bad at this. You must just be new. So many times we don't want to be the amateur, the beginner, the first one to go do the thing. We don't want to mess up and say the wrong thing or do the wrong thing or price it the wrong way or I don't know, whatever it is, right? We don't want to mess it up, so we just don't do anything. We're afraid of being embarrassed, or we're afraid of looking dumb, or we're afraid of what somebody might say about us or whatever. And it could be anything. I mean, I remember leading worship for the first time, being scared out of my mind and shaking, right? I also remember times when I led, because we led a cappella music, so I didn't have a note to start on. I led things too high or too low and had to stop the song in the middle of the congregational singing, and then all of a sudden had to stop the song and start it over, right? I remember saying things that right, or doing things or whatever in my businesses and making decisions that didn't lead us where we wanted to go. Your first sales call is probably going to be awkward, and that's okay. Make another one. Your first video that you talk to, it's fascinating to me. I've literally done this, I don't know how many times now, where I've gone and at a live event, I've had people pull their phones out and do a live video right there. I can't tell you how many people will make an excuse to not do the live video. They'll make any excuse not to do the live video. You may not have ever done a live video. Pull your phone out right now and do a live video. And it could be terrible. And you know what? That's okay. Do another one. Post another one. Do it again. The first time is probably not going to be very good. And that's okay. I love Gary Vee the other day. I saw him put out a post and he talked about, he was showing one of his very first videos that he did, which were awful, by the way. And he did hundreds of them that way. And they were all pretty bad back when he started doing the whole wine business thing and trying to help his dad and his family business, right? And he talks about how that was the beginning. And I think about whenever I started and looking at the phone and trying to do a live and talking to the phone thinking, this is dumb. Why am I talking to the phone? And then worrying, well, what is somebody going to say if I say the wrong thing or do the wrong thing, or, you know, what's going to happen if that doesn't work right, or nobody watches, or what if nobody cares, or I don't know, whatever, right? We make up all these stories, and it's all made up anyway, by the way. Right? Your first event, maybe the first event that you do barely makes any money, or maybe nobody shows up. We had a student not too long ago that put together this whole training and got everything ready. They promoted it with the Chamber of Commerce. There was massive storms the day of the event. And he thought, you know what, I'm going to show up anyway. And there was one student in the class. One student. That's all that was there. And I was like, well, did you go ahead and do the class? And he goes, well, yeah, I taught him. And I just, I think back to times in ministry where I'd only have a few kids show up to something when we were doing youth ministry work, or I've done events where we just haven't had hardly anybody show up. We're doing a challenge right now where we haven't had the sign up that we had hoped we would have, but I'm going to go ahead and do it anyway, because if I can help one person, it only takes one. If I can help one person change their lives. Like I was talking to my team today. We have our team calls on Tuesday morning for YROC Consulting. And so I'm talking to our team this morning. We're kind of shifting some deliverables for AI and that sort of thing, because AI is constantly changing. And so we're talking about all that. We're talking about the challenge. We're talking about what's going on. And we're talking about one of our students right now that's sitting at like 15 to 20K a month, when this student hasn't been doing this for, not seriously doing it, maybe for a year, maybe, and he's already doing 15 to 20K a month. And another student that's doing 12, 13K a month. And she wasn't even, wasn't even something she was shooting for. Another student that has clients that are doing 3 to 5K a month, like each client. Like these are real people that had not owned a business, started a business, ran a business, that got into my program and started learning how to build a business and just went for it. They didn't question. One of the students, I asked him one day, I was like, what do you think caused you to have so much success? Like what drove the success that you're having? And he goes, well, you just tell us to do something and I just go do it. And I thought, that's how I got started. Somebody told me, go do this way, build it this way, go talk to them this way, sell it this way. And I was like, you know what? I'm just going to go do that and see if it works. And I just followed the process. And that's what I ask my students to do. Just follow the process. Just do the thing. Whatever you do, don't just sit there and do nothing. Do the thing. And when they did the thing, it actually worked. Amazing, right? It's kind of amazing. Right? But that's how this works. Maybe your first employee may expose how much you don't know about leadership. So you go learn. There's books and podcasts and trainings and AI now and all this stuff. There's workshops to go to learn how to become a better leader. Your first business may reveal things about you that you never even wanted exposed. So you grow. You become something more. You become better. You become smarter, wiser. You do better the next time. You make a better decision the next time. So what if you messed it up? Big whoopee. Guys, we got one shot at this thing. We better get about it. You only have so many years. Your first investment might create problems that you never knew existed. That's okay. You go figure them out. I remember when we started our business way back in 14. We started the business. 15 was pretty successful year. Did pretty well. Paid a pretty good chunk of change in taxes. Didn't really think a whole lot about it. And then 16 came and we landed a massive client and we paid like 90,000 in taxes. And I thought it was like 92 grand or something. And I thought there's got to be a smarter way to do this. We'd already changed CPAs like 3 or 4 times because I thought there's got to be somebody that knows what in the world they're doing with tax planning. And what I didn't realize was there's tax planners and there's tax preparers. Those are 2 very different things. If you haven't figured that out yet, take my advice. Those are 2 very different things. If you go find somebody that's a tax planner, they're going to work with you and they're going to look ahead and they're going to go, hey, here are things that you need to do through this year. They're going to ask you about like, where's your income level and what's your net profit look like for the year? And are you going to have any big expenses? And are you buying any equipment or other things for your business? Are you going to make any other investments this year? Like they start to plan ahead and create a strategic plan so that you can take advantage of tax code, the things that are legal, moral, and ethical, right? Most of the time, a tax preparer is just somebody that's going to look back. They're like a scorekeeper. They're going to look at the end of the year. Most of the time, it's not even at the end of the year. It's usually the beginning of the next year. And they're going to go, okay, here's what you earned and here's blah, blah, blah. And here's the things that we have in place for you. And you've got this tax credit and this thing and that thing and that thing. But there's no planning. There's no, hey, here are some things that you can do to offset your taxes. Go buy this or go do that for your business that you needed to do, or I don't know, whatever, right? Like right now, we bought this RV park. Guess what I'll probably do? A cost seg. I'll do a cost seg on the RV park so that it offsets my taxes for next year. Like that's going to be a part of the strategy. And if I didn't think ahead, I wouldn't plan ahead to do that strategy for next year. Those are things that you need to think ahead of. And there's a difference as you start to learn, you become smarter and smarter, just like Joshua. Joshua had to become the person that grew into the man at King 31. He was a totally different guy than he probably was at King number 1. So stop interpreting inexperience as incompetence. You're at King number 1. You're a beginner. In whatever you're doing. It could be a health. Maybe you're just starting your health journey, or maybe you're just starting a new relationship, or maybe you're just starting your spiritual walk. And like when we start our spiritual walk, we have to start out as infants. We start with milk, just like my little grandson. Like he can't go eat food. Like he can't go get a chunk of steak right now. He needs to start with milk until he grows into the young man that can eat steak and all the other goodness, right? We do the same thing. We have to start somewhere and grow into that person. So I've watched this play out in front of me lately. I've watched entrepreneurs who have spent years waiting, and I've watched others simply just go. I've watched my daughter launch a brand new business, walk into Canton where nobody knows who she is. She didn't wait until she was a seasoned jewelry entrepreneur. She went, she sold, she taught workshops. She met potential wholesalers. She made connections. She learned. And then she came home better than when she arrived at Kent. She was a different person 4 days later than when she was there. And I've watched even this last week or two, she started a new TikTok channel for that one ring shop. And she started, her Instagram is growing and her Facebook page is growing. And she's starting to put out videos every day about her rings and what she's doing, the spoon rings and the silversmithing and the jewelry that she's building and all the custom stuff she's making for, like, she's making hat pins now and hat clips and other stuff because she's looking to do collaborations with, hat companies and some of these other Western wear places around here. And she's looking at doing, Maybank. They're having some kind of a festival or market or something. And she's looking at all these different things. And I'm like, go for it. You need to go do the thing, because by doing the things, you're going to learn, you're going to grow, you're going to be a different person. You're going to be better. Right. She came home better than she was when she went to Canton. She'll do the same thing with all this other stuff. And you're going to do the same thing when you go through the process. You're going to be a different person. You're going to be better at the end of the process because you're going to grow and you're going to learn. Like, I've watched students inside of each eForge make calls that they've been afraid to make. I've watched people step into AI Authority Engine knowing nothing about AI search and then start to sell the services around it because they're willing to learn. They're willing just to go for it. Right now, we're learning an entirely new business ourselves with our first RV park. And I don't have park number 10 experience. I have park number 1 experience because that's where I'm at. And honestly, I couldn't read a book that's going to teach me this. I've got to go through the process. I've got to go put the time in and do the thing and learn about how it all works. And I'm learning as we go. I had a guy out here this weekend that was helping me with our gravel roads and our pads and teaching me how to run the tractor in a way with a 6-way box blade to get the spots cleaned up and all that. And I'm like, this is so cool. I love learning. I don't know. And I told him, I said, I don't know anything about any of this stuff, but he's very willing to teach me because he's at King 31. He's been doing this for decades. The guy did like multiple spots within 20, 30 minutes. He had multiple spots clean. Probably take me that long just to clean one spot. And who knows if it even looked good, right? But this is where social media messes people up. Sometimes you're king number 1. That's where you're at. But somebody else is at king number 31 and you're recording video number 4 and you're watching somebody that's recorded 4,000 videos. Or you're on sales call number 12 and you're watching somebody who's made 12,000 sales calls. You're running business year 1 and you're comparing yourself to somebody that's been in business for 20 years. You're buying property number 1 when somebody else has already closed on property number 50. And then you say, well, I'm not very good at this. Well, of course you're not. You're not good at it yet. Guys, that is such a magic word. If you haven't started using the word yet, start adding that to, well, I'm not good yet. I don't know yet. I haven't learned yet. Well, why would you be good at something if you've never done it before? They fought 30 kings that you haven't met yet. Stop comparing your beginning to somebody else's battlefield experience. They've already been there. They've already done it. They've already bought the t-shirt over and over and over again. They know what it's like. Now, it'd be great to go get around them, right? I want some Joshuas in my life. I want some people in my life that they already know. They've already been there. They have the courage. They've already fought the fight. They know what to look out for. They know what not to do. The guy with the gravel the other day, I was like, I feel like we need to go have more gravel brought in, do this and this and this. And he goes, no, you don't. He goes, all you need to do is do this and cut this and do this. And he goes, I'll just do it. He literally made, I don't know how many trips around our road out here to cut the road and make it look right and graded correctly. So when it rains, the water will run off the way it's supposed to run off. And it's because he knew. I can do the same thing with a website. You can send me a digital property, a website or web presence or a brand. I can do the same thing with that. I'll tear it apart. I can tell you everything that you needed to know about it because I looked at thousands of websites now. We've literally built 1,000 plus websites. We've ranked around the world. We've outranked regional and local and national and worldwide. We've outranked the IRS. I mean, come on. Like, we've done things that most companies have never even touched. We've gone up against massive companies that are huge out of New York and blown them away because they are cookie cutters. They just do the same thing over and over and over again. They don't realize that you've got to customize some things. Usually you've got to like come up with some strategy and be tactical with the companies that you work with. You don't need King number 31 experience today. It'd be great to get around those people. What you do need is enough faith and courage for the king standing in front of you. That's all you need today. So what's your king number one? Maybe it's the call you need to make, the person you need to visit. Maybe it's the video you need to post, the website you need to launch. Maybe it's the podcast you need to start. Maybe it's walking into that networking event that maybe you've been scared to go to. Maybe it's sending the proposal or hiring the person. Maybe it's having the conversation that you're afraid to have. I'm going to pick on my daughter for just a minute here because I'm watching her grow literally right in front of me right now. This weekend, she said, "Hey, Dad, can we go and talk to some of these boutiques?" She wanted me to go with her because she was scared. She's in front of king number one. She goes, "I don't know what to say. I want to go walk into these boutiques. I want to go walk into this hat shop. I want to go meet these people." And the hat shop, we found out this lady is making hats for big, huge country music stars. And like, I didn't have any idea. Like, this lady's literally right down the road and she's flying all over the country doing hats for people that you guys would know if I said the names. Like, it's a little crazy. And she's walking into these places, having a conversation with them about, "Hey, this is what I do. I do silversmithing, blah, blah, blah. And I'm with that one ring shop and da, 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 da. And I'd like to do a collaboration with you. Or maybe if you guys do like events or whatever, I'd love to come in and do a workshop and teach people how to make jewelry and that kind of thing." The first one was rough. And we left and she goes, "Man, I forgot so many things. Thanks for jumping in." And she said, I was talking along and I said this. And then she said, "I had no idea what to say after that." And I said, "That's okay. I stepped in and helped," right? We need people that can step in and help us. And sometimes we just need to go do the thing. Guess what? And when we went to the second place, she did 1,000 times better because she'd already gone through it once. And guess what would have happened in the third place, in the fourth place, in the fifth place, right? Because she had the courage to go do it one time. So some of you aren't even stepping out to go do it one time. You've got to take the first step. Even if it's a baby step, you got to take the first step. You can't handle king number 17. You got to handle the king that's standing in front of you today. It may be Jericho. Maybe you just need to trust and march around because that's the orders that you've been given, not having a clue why in the world we're following the worship band around and the worship band's the one that's going to actually fight the battle for us. Like, that makes any logical sense. I mean, come on. Sometimes we're called to do things that just don't really make much sense, but we're called by God to do it, and we do it, and we trust, and we obey. Look, there's something else that we cannot miss. The lesson isn't trust God until you become experienced enough that you don't need him anymore. No, Joshua's victories continued to require dependence on God. That's the Christian entrepreneur's difference. We're not trying to become so successful that we graduate from dependence. We're trying to become more faithful stewards of whatever God puts in our hands. More experience should create deeper trust, not less. I loved the gentleman that came and helped me with the gravel this weekend. He's owned businesses for decades. He's been an investor, done all kinds of things. You can tell he's a successful businessman. And by the way, he probably hasn't told anybody he came and did that, doesn't want any accolades for any of it. He's a very humble guy. He actually did the communion talk at church on Sunday. And I was sitting there thinking about something that he said because I want to be around people that have been at King 31 or 51, right? I want to be around people that have been out here with kings that are so far out there and they're so advanced in what they know and what they're doing that it's just crazy to think that far ahead from where we're at right now. And he looks at me and he says, "You know, the best thing that you can do right now on this RV park, the thing that you need to spend your time doing praying. And I was like, we've done that. I said, I've been walking this property praying about it. And almost every night I walk across the property and pray over the property and pray over our RVers and just ask God, what do you want me to do with this thing? And it was interesting. He said, he said, God may have called you to buy it because he gave you this. That was his exact words were, God gave you this RV park. And I was thinking, yes, he did. I agree with that. God gave me this RV park. And now it's my stewarding. It's my responsibility to do with it whatever God wants me to do with it. He said, maybe it is that God wants you to fill it and create that community and do the thing that you think that needs to be done. Maybe that is what God's calling you to do. Or maybe God's calling you to get it built up, a certain amount or whatever, and then sell it and go do something else. He said, I would just do whatever God's calling you to do. And he told me this story about how he bought some property in another state. He said, I bought this property years ago. And he said, I had this vision of this is what I feel like God's calling me to do. And he said, I prayed about it. And he said, we went and put septic and water and electric and all this stuff in. We were going to build this house and all this stuff on the property and all this. And he said, God never called us to it. He said, we did all this work. And he said, at some point, it was like the vision had changed. He said, it was no longer us doing that. And he said, I think the way he put it was that was my plan, not God's plan. And he said that was never God's plan, so we didn't do it. And I was thinking, that's the kind of faith that I want. That's the kind of action that I want. That's the kind of connection with God's voice that I want. Right? He makes me want to be a better man, a better husband, a better businessman, a better dad, right? A better granddad, a better leader. So let me ask you, what king is standing in front of you right now? Not next year's king, not somebody else's king, yours right now. What king is standing in front of you right now? What are you avoiding because you don't feel qualified to do it? What have you convinced yourself that you need to master before you're willing to begin? Look, maybe you're not supposed to know everything yet. Maybe this battle is a part of the training. Maybe this customer is teaching you something you'll need for customer number 100. Maybe this $5,000 month is preparing you to steward $50,000 months. Maybe employee number 1 is preparing you to lead employee number 100. Maybe property number 1 is preparing you for property number 10. I hope that's the case with the RV park. Like, our goal is to own many RV parks, not just this one. Our goal, we have multiple businesses. I would love to own more RV parks or more assets like RV parks. Maybe video number 1 is preparing you for the stage you'll stand on 10 years from now. But you'll never find out if you refuse to start. You got to get on the starting line and go. I want you to remember this the next time you feel inexperienced. You don't get to king number 31 experience at king number 1. You earn it. Battle by battle, decision by decision, failure by failure, victory by victory, step by step. And through all of it, you trust God. So stop asking to feel like a seasoned warrior before you're willing to enter your first battle. You're not supposed to know everything yet. You're supposed to be faithful with what's right in front of you right now. I have to be faithful with what's right in front of me today. Joshua didn't conquer 31 kings in one afternoon. There was a first wall, and then a first battle, and then a first failure, and then a first victory, and then another and another and another until one day someone could look back and count 31 kings. Look, that's how businesses are built. That's how leaders are built. That's how legacies are built. Not one giant moment, one faithful battle at a time. So if you're standing at king number 1 today, good. Welcome to the arena. Stop hiding behind preparation. Stop comparing yourself to veterans. Stop waiting to feel ready. Pray, seek wisdom, trust God, and then go. Somebody and someday you'll look back at the thing that terrifies you today, and you're going to realize that it was simply the first battle God used to prepare you for everything else that came next. Look, if this episode spoke to you, send it to the person you know who's been sitting on the sidelines waiting to feel ready. Maybe they need some encouragement today. I would appreciate it if you would subscribe to the podcast wherever you're at, whether you're on YouTube or Spotify or Apple, wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts. Leave me a review. Reviews matter in this business. It helps me to grow. It helps me to know, am I on the right direction? And let me know what your key number one is. Where are you at today? What are you battling today? What is the one thing that you need to go conquer today? Look, and until next Thursday, keep forging forward. Keep staying aligned with your calling. Build with clarity, confidence, and conviction, because this is the forge where leaders are made and legacies are built.